I clearly have an IQ of 160, but I'm stuck working a night cleaning job. I deal with this strange obsessive-compulsive disorder. Whenever I spot a mistake, I have to fix and clean it up right away. But tonight, I'm cleaning at the Los Angeles Police Department. This obsessive-compulsive thing of mine is completely out of control. In a moment of carelessness, I knock over a murder case file. With just one glance, I notice a serious mistake in the police's analysis. So, my OCD kicks in, and I insist on changing the suspect's identity to the victim. My name's Morgan, a single mom constantly busy taking care of 3 kids. At first, I thought pointing out the error was a good deed, but the next morning a detective knocked on my door. Facing surveillance video of my actions, I can only say it's all thanks to the magic of music. But Chief Selena sternly tells me that tampering with a criminal case is a serious crime. I'm instantly panicked. Fixing one mistake got me accused of obstructing justice. The detective next to her, Karadek, angrily says a janitor doesn't get to meddle in his case. I have to be honest. If I see an error and don't fix it, I can't sleep all night. Selena doesn't say a word and just places the case file in front of me. I don't hold back.
You've got a dead body. I'm assuming you think this lady offed her husband, but that's not possible. Look at this room. Look at this couch. All of these pillows are evenly spaced with alternating colors. Check out these shelves. Those objects are perfectly sized. Even the choice of metals is consistent. This house is immaculate. The owner is a tidiness freak, except all of these curtains are fastened with a tie back except for one for some reason. That's odd, isn't it? You're telling me this woman who meticulously arranges her couch pillows doesn't care about her curtains? So the tie back must have been used for something else. See, look, you've got hairs stuck to the chair leg. Somebody put tape around it, ripped it off, the glue stayed, and trapped the little bits. That means someone was tied up with the curtain cord and taped to the chair around their ankles. And since there are no marks on the victim's wrist, means there was a third person. We have Lynette tied to the chair, victim on the ground, and our unknown bondage freak who was either kidnapped or bumped off Lynette.
Seeing such an obvious mistake, I couldn't help but fix it. But as I'm about to head home, the detective stops me. Right then, the agents uncover a new clue.
A woman was seen entering the house at the time of the murder.
The third person!
Since everything needs time to verify, they lock me, the troublemaker, in a holding cell for now. Still, the police's clueless investigation now seems to have a clear direction.
We have a second victim.
The police find in the victim's doorbell system an Asian woman who appeared at the house 30 minutes before the crime. This woman sued her boss a few months ago. The victim's wife worked at a law firm and was the lawyer defending that boss. Clearly, the woman who lost the lawsuit is a suspect, since she sent threatening emails to the victim's wife. Turns out, she was harassed by her boss multiple times, even locked in his office and groped a few months back. Unexpectedly, the lawsuit failed, so she turned her anger toward the lawyer defending her creepy boss. But when she sees the video, the woman is confused. She swears she was working from home all day yesterday, but sadly, no one can provide an alibi for her. Just as they're about to name her the suspect, I'm released and spot another issue.
The video has the wrong date on the timestamp.
I don't want to get involved anymore and turn to leave. Right then, Selena, curious, stops me, hoping I'll give a solid explanation. Turns out, one look, and I know the video isn't from yesterday, the wind in the video blows south to north since summer in the Los Angeles basin has southern winds, but in fall it shifts north.
So that's got to be from several months ago.
Figuring out the wind direction is simple, because the video shows a church, and since the 8th century, Catholic churches are built facing east, so sunlight shines from behind, making priests look holier. Yesterday was definitely north wind, since I felt it the moment I stepped outside. Now, facing my brilliant mind, everyone at the scene is stunned. When I try to leave, Selena chases after me again. Selena's really curious and wants to know what kind of person I am. I'm not even sure myself, just that there's a term called high potential. My thinking's always out of control, so I can't even land a decent job. It feels like being too smart is kind of a curse. Staying home with my kids is probably my best choice. But as I step outside, I see a girl sitting on a bench, looking sad. Getting closer, I realize it's the victim's daughter, just back from school. As a mom, I totally get how she's feeling right now.
She's beautiful. It's the last photo I have of her.
A kind smile is the biggest comfort I can offer for her pain. Unexpectedly, Selena walks up right then and sincerely asks me to help the police solve the case. I'm promised not just a waived fine, but more importantly, a chance to help this poor girl find her mom.
You got it.
Turns out the daughter provided a useful clue. Her mom felt guilty about a coworker who passed away. A few weeks ago, her mom got a letter from that person. Since then, her mom started acting strange. But the police didn't find the letter at the scene. I'm sure it's still in her mom's office. The last person to see both victims was the girl's aunt. So, our first step is to take the girl to the house of the victim's sister. One glance, and I spot the laptop, then the decorations on the shelf, and I instantly suspect the victim's sister is hiding something. I think, with a family member just gone, how's the sister in the mood to write an academic paper? But Karadek thinks I need to show some empathy, at least respect the victim's family. Clearly, we don't see eye to eye, so I turn and walk away, done with it. Without my help, Karadek's talk with the law firm hits a dead end. I show up unexpectedly in the men's bathroom at the law firm. I'd predicted this outcome, so I got there early to grab the important letter. Using my janitor cover, I sneak into the missing lawyer's office and crack the safe's code with the victim's birth date. But after reading the letter, I realized the coworker who passed was the lawyer's assistant in the Brian Diamond case, the creepy boss from the lawsuit. That guy had a habit of harassing people, even pulling dirty moves on the assistant. The assistant begged the victim for help. The victim acted, so the creep broke into their home and accidentally killed someone. But even with the letter, I know it's useless since it wasn't obtained legally. This breaks police rules, so Karadek makes me return the letter untouched. Luckily, police can enlist civilian help, but the creep denies any connection to the assistant. On the day of the crime, he claims he wasn't even in town. After checking, his GPS shows he was in Fontana, 50 miles away, yesterday. Now, I'm even more skeptical. I think a guy in custom Italian leather shoes and a fancy watch going to a low-key place like that? That town's just got a water park where only small-town guys go to dance halls for fun. In a rush, I slammed the one-way mirror, demanding to know what the suspect was doing in that small town. But right then, the suspect's lawyer shows up, and the chief has no choice but to let him go politely. I get a warning too, since someone spotted a sassy janitor. My persistent questioning of the suspect gets me grilled by Karadek. Now, I feel deeply hurt. Does someone with a 160 IQ like me only belong at home with the kids? Unexpectedly, the next morning, Karadek humbly knocks on my door. I don't hold back, handing him my youngest kid and diving into deductions. I notice something surprising. In the victim's sister's house, everything's dusty except 2 shiny frog figurines. I realize those are souvenirs from Fontana. I think, if the sister was in that small town, why was the creep there at the same time? This makes me think they're having an affair. I notice the sister's wearing jewelry that doesn't match her status. And the creep used the sister's bond to manipulate the victim, hoping she'd go easy on his crimes. So, he took the victim's sister to the house, but the victim's husband was home at the wrong time. Things spiraled fast, and the creep pulled the trigger in a panic. The victim was terrified, and they tied her to the chair. The last photo of the victim, taken 3 days earlier, clearly shows fresh flowers, but the police's crime scene photos show wilted ones. Plus, the creep owns a security tech company, and the victim's sister is a biologist. This makes total sense to me. I figured the fancy house is like a natural greenhouse with an advanced climate control system. The creep turned the greenhouse into a giant freezer, preserving the victim's body. The next day, he remotely cranked up the heat, tricking the coroner's timeline. The victim's sister couldn't hurt her own sister, so they both went to the small town 50 miles away. There's definitely a house there. Turns out, the small town is where the sisters grew up together. Thanks to my deductions, Karadek successfully rescues the victim from the old house. The tough case is finally cracked, thanks to me. I also get a reward from the chief, but I still turn it down. Maybe staying home with my kids is my best choice. The chief doesn't rush me for an answer, just says she'll keep a full-time consultant spot open for me. Later, Karadek finally gives me some respect. The victim's mom and daughter are reunited. I thought my life would go back to being quiet. But a question from my daughter makes me make a big decision.
Then why did he leave?
He didn't leave.
Hey, but he did. He's gone. He's been gone for 15 years, Mom, and lying to me about it isn't gonna help.
When I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, my first husband suddenly vanished. To prove I'm not lying, the next day I push open the police station door again. Just like that, the chief and I strike a deal, and I officially become a consultant for the Los Angeles Police Department. But I have one extra condition.
If I work for you, you work for me too. I need you to find someone. His name is Roman Sinquera, and he vanished 15 years ago.
The police receive an anonymous tip about a crime. A boy falls in the dead of night and crashes into his own car. Luckily, he's rushed to the hospital in time. There's maybe a glimmer of hope he'll survive after emergency surgery. On the surface, it looks like he took his own life by jumping off a building. But something's odd. Karadek notices the boy's wearing tap dance shoes. Karadek and I head to the rooftop. The first thing that catches my eye is a toppled phone stand on the ground. Following the direction of the fallen stand, I'm shocked to find a phone under a vent. Based on smudges on the screen, I figure the user's definitely a left-handed man. The pattern on the back is even more unique. It's a logo of a Mexican baseball team. Looking at the phone's wallpaper, a religious oil painting, it shows the owner's a devout Catholic. I'm certain the boy didn't take his own life. I mean, who would end it all by crashing into their beloved car? He was probably practicing dance moves on the rooftop when someone suddenly pushed him. After checking with the hospital, the boy still had his phone on him. So this phone must have been left behind by the culprit in a hurry to flee. But there's something super suspicious. What's that butt-shaped mark at the scene? Craddock and I go to the hospital. Talking to the boy's mom, we learned he'd been in a juvenile detention center. After getting out, he worked at an auto shop to turn his life around. Now, he's trying to save up for a plane ticket to Broadway, New York, to train as a dancer. Right then, his coworkers from the auto shop show up to visit. I immediately notice 2 of them are left-handed, and at least one's a devout Catholic.
The phone was his.
Based on a tattoo on one guy's arm, I'm sure he's the phone's owner. Craddock brings him to the station to assist with the investigation. At first, he denies everything. But a small gesture catches my attention.
Check his coccyx!
Turns out, that butt mark was actually left by him. He admits he was on the rooftop with the victim last night. Then, out of nowhere, some dude rushes out and kicks him to the ground. When he got up, he saw his friend had fallen onto the car, and the attacker was gone. Later, through surveillance footage, it's confirmed their car entered the alley at 1:40 a.m. Clearly, the tattooed guy can't escape suspicion, since there's no third person. But after reviewing the files, I come up with a different answer.
He might. What'd you guys do with Damien's car?
The police found paint traces in the trunk, but none on the car's surface. So, I suspect the third person was hiding in the trunk and hitched a ride to the crime scene. This perfectly explains why the camera didn't catch any images. But classic cars need a key to unlock. How could the suspect open the trunk from inside? If they work at the auto shop, opening a lock's no big deal. I climb into the trunk myself and, sure enough, manage to open it from the inside. This means everyone at the auto shop is now a suspect. Craddock and I head to the auto shop to investigate. Surprisingly, these rebellious kids refuse to cooperate. I propose a deal. If each one says where they were last night, I'll find a way to get the classic car back for repairs. That way the police save time finding the culprit and the boy can drive his beloved car as soon as he's out of the hospital. The deal seems to be agreed on quickly, but clearly these teens aren't telling a single truth. The investigation hits a dead end. Who's the real culprit? That night, as I'm thinking about my first husband, I suddenly get a hunch. I immediately call Craddock to meet me at the rooftop. If there really was a third person, I think the best hiding spot would be behind the outdoor AC unit. The culprit ran out fast, accidentally knocking over the phone stand. But last night was a full moon, and under bright moonlight, the culprit couldn't tell who was who.
Couldn't see who it was he was pushing.
Our assailant pushed the wrong guy.
He meant to kill Roland.
Turns out the person he wanted to kill was the tattooed guy. We have to act fast to stop the culprit from striking again. Craddock calls right away, but Roland's at a club and can't hear clearly. I hear the music and recognize the song, so I search online and find only one retro party happened last night. But when we get to the scene, we find Roland's already been shot dead. Luckily, someone recorded a video, but the loud music drowned out the gunshot. It looks like the culprit and victim knew each other, but the hoodie hides the culprit's face. Useful clues are scarce right now. I'm stumped, certain I've missed something. Right then, through a curtain, I'm shocked to notice something. In the next room investigating an armed robbery, the suspect seems to be another guy in a hoodie. Through surveillance footage, I spot something odd in the muzzle flash. I realize it's an antique gun because I once took my kid to a museum and old weapons leave gunpowder residue in the barrel. Even more coincidental, the robber's gun is the same one that killed the tattooed guy. So, the two cases connect, and the clue boards quickly merge. I keep analyzing. In 5 robberies, 3 were far apart, and witnesses saw the robber's car at the scenes. But in the 4th and 5th, no one saw a getaway car. That's because the robber lost his driver. From the last 2 cases, it's clear the 2 jewelry stores robbed are on the same street. Turns out, the robber switched to going on foot because he lost Roland, who could handle lots of cars. You've got to know, they all work at the auto shop where any car is free to use. Until a month ago, the robber started relying on his own 2 feet. Because the boy helped Roland get off the criminal path, they started dancing together. So, on the night of the crime, the culprit hid in the classic car's trunk. He meant to push Roland off, but in the dark, he pushed the wrong person. Then, at last night's party, he shot Roland dead. Right now, we haven't identified the suspect, but I've got a way to catch him.
No, I don't. But I do have an idea about how we can find him.
The guy in black with the yellow bag shows up again, sure enough. He walks into the jewelry store and is immediately surrounded by cops disguised as staff. Just like that, the suspect for both cases is caught red-handed. When the mask is ripped off, it turns out to be the most defiant guy from the start. He knew he pushed the wrong person, but that small detail didn't escape me. And every time he robbed a jewelry store, it was after the police scanner sent out code 3, when the fewest cops are available, boosting his escape odds. But tonight, the code was changed, so the suspect fell into a trap set for him. At this point, both cases are solved. I also get my first consultant paycheck. But that night, I received news I've been waiting for forever. The chief found a lead on my first husband. 3 days after he went missing, his car was found abandoned in a parking lot a few miles away. Inside the car was a box of diapers bought from a store, proving I didn't lie to my daughter. My husband didn't abandon the family to wander the world. We'll find out what happened to Roman. I promise.
If Roman really wanted to abandon your family, why would he stop and buy diapers first?
You believe me?
We're gonna find out what happened to Roman. I promise.
I arrive at the crime scene and immediately sense something's off. On the surface, the victim seems to have accidentally drowned in the bathtub. But the melted candles, empty wine glass, and 4 pieces of clothing and shoes scattered around suggest a wild, passionate night definitely happened here. I explain why. I'm sure it's a murder. Turns out, the way the towels are folded doesn't meet the hotel's standards. The towels underneath are folded with 2 creases, but the top one has 3. This means the killer used a towel to wipe down the scene. Looking at the floor next to the tub, I notice clear streak-like scratches. But 5-star hotels use microfiber mops, so I'm certain the killer cleaned the floor with that towel. Plus, the victim was staying alone at the hotel, so there must have been a woman with him. And my gut tells me she's a sultry brunette. At this point, the victim's wallet is found, identifying him as Ernest from Mexico City.
Well, because who does their dishes in a hotel room? Anyway, this glass was rinsed out and wiped clean, and why would you do that unless you were trying to get rid of white residue? Notice anything else about the glass?
Right, so whiskey tumbler, lead-free, crystal cut, which is harder and more durable than glass, withstands most scratches. Also refracts light beautifully.
You want me to know you drink whiskey so bad.
Plus, the glass is specifically for whiskey, which suggests the victim met the sultry brunette at the bar before heading to the room. If it wasn't a murder, there'd be no need to hide the truth. Karadek and I confirm with the bartender, and I'm stunned to learn the victim's date was actually a blonde. Hotel cameras show the victim and the blonde entered the room, and in just 31 minutes, they were done and she left. After that, no one else entered the room until the next morning when a maid found the body in the tub. A security guard clearly remembers the blonde because she parked her red sedan in a no parking zone. But there's no record of a ticket for that car in the traffic system. Only police and doctors are exempt from parking rules. Since police cars aren't red, a doctor becomes the prime suspect. Coincidentally, there's a hospital a kilometer from the hotel, so we might find the blonde in her red sedan there. Sure enough, as expected, a female doctor is quickly brought to the station to assist with the investigation. Surprisingly, just a short time after her husband passed away, she started a romantic relationship with the victim. Last night, they did have a drink together, and back in the room, the victim fell asleep from exhaustion in less than half an hour. Bored, she left, and when she did, the victim was still alive and well. Karadek doesn't buy the doctor's story, but I believe she's not the killer.
Used to answer questions.
She didn't do it.
Because all the candles at the scene melted, except one that was snuffed out. This means the victim struggled violently in the tub, splashing water that put out the candle. So, a candle that should have burned for 4 hours went out after about an hour and a half. Therefore, when the doctor left the room, the candle had been burning for 30 minutes and the killer struck an hour later.
Can I leave now?
Yeah, free to go.
The doctor is just cleared as a suspect when we get shocking news from the other side. Investigating the victim's workplace, they discover the real Ernest is still alive. He remembered a few years ago, while riding in a car, the driver looked just like him. That night, his wallet and ID were stolen. Clearly, the victim's identity was fake. So the investigation has to start from scratch. Karadek plans to look for clues in the evidence, but I'd already brought all the evidence home. When Karadek shows up, I found a clue in it. The soles of the victim's shoes had cement stuck to them, so I figure he must have lived or worked near a construction site. And the patch on his pants is a unique stitching technique used by tailors from Madagascar. Nowadays, finding the tailor shop is easy because that community named themselves after a theater when they married. So the next morning, Karadek and I go to the tailor shop where the victim, Mr. Edward, was a regular. Even more coincidental, as we leave the shop, we hear noise from a nearby construction site. Clearly, everything matches my theory. Plus, not far away is a parking lot, and with one press of the key from the evidence bag, I find the car the victim drove. Next, from a suit and charger in the car, I deduced the victim was a rideshare driver. Then, using the car owner's info, Karadek and I quickly tracked down an apartment building. But as we're about to enter, we run into a mother and daughter heading out. Turns out, the victim was the woman's husband, who'd been in prison for credit card fraud. 3 years ago, he switched from driving to selling wine, and since he traveled often, it was usually just the mother and daughter at home. However, the wife had no idea about the blonde her husband was with. Back at the station, the report shows the cause of death was drowning, and traces of psychiatric drugs were found in the victim's digestive system. Even though the blonde is a doctor, the camera timeline proves she's not the killer. Right then, I get a sudden idea. I'm certain the killer entered through the window, because I noticed the window lock was misaligned to the left and one window was unlocked. So, the killer likely escaped through the window after the crime. Also, the victim had no debts, owned lots of financial stocks, lived in a fancy apartment but drove a beat-up car, and wore expensive suits. All this is super odd, and I think solving these inconsistencies will reveal the answer. My theory checks out because the hotel's fixed window shows multiple scuff marks, and there's white powder on the windowsill. I immediately recognize it as magnesium carbonate powder used by climbers. At this point, the victim's financial situation becomes clear. Over the past year, a woman transferred him over $200,000. When we track her down, we learn she has Alzheimer's and is carefully looked after by her son. She only remembers the victim as her fiancé, and the $200,000 was for a home in Mexico City.
What?
Her son is furious, hearing this, upset that his mom was scammed while he wasn't around. The next day, I visit the victim's home again to check in. This time, I'm shocked to find a large amount of cash hidden in a dictionary the victim left for his daughter. Clearly, this was all money he scammed while alive. In his daughter's camera, I see a snake tattoo on the victim's arm. So, I arranged to meet Karadek at the bar. Coincidentally, the bartender has the exact same tattoo on his arm as in the photo.
Hey! Whoa, put the gun down.
He panics and bolts to the kitchen, but Karadek quickly traps and arrests him. Turns out, they were prison buddies, and after getting out, the victim pitched a scam plan. The bartender found targets, while the victim used fake engagements to swindle money from vulnerable women. Though the bartender admits his role, he firmly denies any involvement in the victim's death.
He was my goose. I laid golden eggs.
But I think even though the bartender had easy access to commit the crime, he couldn't have free climb to the 4th floor with long fingernails. On the other hand, the son of the scammed woman is a climbing club member who could easily scale that window. His motive was revenge for his mom being conned. After working with me, Karadek surprisingly picked up some analytical skills. He suddenly realizes the killer couldn't have acted alone. Someone drugged the victim's drink and opened the window. And that night, the other accomplice in the hotel room was the female doctor we investigated first. The doctor is arrested immediately. The police find she transferred $390,000 to the victim, also scammed with the promise of a vacation home in Mexico City. One day, she and the climber met at the hotel, and he tried to expose the scam, but it was already too late. So, they plotted revenge. Waiting for the victim to drink the sedative, then the climber snuck into the bathroom. Just like that, another murder case is solved. Karadek and I become a solid team. I just get my consultant badge when, in the bathroom, I meet a woman reporting a crime. Her name's Mia, and her 2 daughters have gone out of touch. Her ex-husband was supposed to bring the kids home last night, but he never showed up. The father never agreed to joint custody because his ex-son-in-law became an extreme environmental activist. Their online store wasn't making enough to live on, so they moved in with her parents. But the ex-husband wanted his wife and kids to live completely off the grid, telling them all food and water nowadays is toxic. He even bought a small house in the mountains, trying to build a sustainable farm to return to a natural lifestyle. Karadek and I head straight to the ex-husband's eco house in the mountains. I glance down and spot a doll on the ground. I realize this is the favorite toy of the 2 girls in the photo, right? Unless something unexpected happened, those girls would never leave their doll lying around. The kitchen faucet is still running, and the food on the table hasn't been eaten. This shows the ex-husband left in a hurry, so panicked he didn't even clear the plates. Then, we check out the greenhouse out front, where all sorts of organic vegetables are growing. But I'm shocked to notice how are cucumbers and tomatoes growing together. These 2 plants aren't companions, they even compete for nutrients. Someone who knows farming would never make such a basic mistake. Looking closer, none of the seedlings have taken root.
What are you saying, Morgan?
I think this space was empty until Wendell moved all these plants in here within the last few days.
But you just said that he would never do that.
Yeah, he wouldn't, unless he had a reason, something to hide.
Or someone.
We start digging the soil and sure enough quickly uncover the ex-husband's body. The cause of death is clearly a hard blow to the back of the head. The murder weapon is a shovel commonly used in farming. The coroner determines he's been dead for 12 hours. In that time, the kidnapper could have taken the girls anywhere in the country. Right then, Lev gets a tip. The victim often sold vegetables to a nearby cafe. The cafe owner saw him arguing with a woman yesterday. A red-headed woman with glasses, probably the victim's new girlfriend, but the body was still wearing a wedding ring. Then, Daphne brings a photo I found in a book, showing the victim's parents on a beach vacation. Selena immediately orders her team to verify the identities, hoping it'll lead to useful clues. I'm not just intrigued by this survival guide. I also spot tire tracks outside the door. If a random stranger committed the crime, I calculate the odds of the girls still being alive drop to 42%. Then, Karadek and I go to Mia's house. This family owns a global chain of luxury hotels, and Mia's father is a real tycoon. This means the kidnapper might have taken the girls for ransom. And since the tycoon despised his son-in-law, he can't be ruled out as a murder suspect. When we reveal the ex-husband's body was found in the greenhouse, the wealthy family is utterly shocked. But when we mention the red-headed woman he argued with, Mia says she knows nothing about it. I notice the maid passing by. I make an excuse to use the bathroom, then go to the room the maid's cleaning and chat with her. I cleverly tap into our shared janitor experience, quickly bonding with the maid and getting two strange pieces of info. First, the victim was a good guy who really loved his kids. Second, she saw the victim sneaking out of his father-in-law's study last week. Sadly, the reason's unclear, so I have to let it go for now. But back at the station, I discover the Child Protective Services reports are all false. The report said the victim often fed his kids junk food, but since he grew organic vegetables, why would he go against his natural living ideals? It seems the only person with a grudge against the victim was the social worker who wrote those false reports. But when I see her photo, I realize, isn't this the red-headed woman with glasses who argued with the victim? When we meet in person, she keeps stressing her job is to protect kids from harm. However, I spot a stack of bills on her desk and the same dish soap that's tax deductible. I realize this shows she's like me, living frugally, scraping by at the end of the month. But she somehow afforded a trip to Hawaii, bringing back fresh berries unique to Kauai.
How comfy are those super soft slippers at a luxury 5-star resort? Geez, I wonder what the A could possibly stand for.
Clearly, someone offered her tempting benefits and asked her to write bad things about the victim. When accused of murder, she immediately defends herself, saying the victim asked to meet her. The victim said he wanted to expose his father-in-law's actions and firmly refused her offer to revise the reports. He also said his father-in-law bribed lots of people, and he had solid evidence to put him in jail. That would stop his father-in-law from building more hotels harm the earth. After leaving, she immediately told the tycoon everything. The police go to the tycoon's mansion and arrest him.
How was traffic?
Bad. Traffic's always bad.
Those tickets from the toll?
No, fast pass.
Yeah, write down your make and model. We'll check the cameras. Or you could just skip to the truth, Curtis. Did Mr. Ashford pressure you to lie?
Curtis.
He did. I don't know where Mr. Ashford was last night, but I didn't drive him anywhere.
But his driver tries to provide an alibi, and under Kardec's pressure, the driver admits he lied. I go to the study and notice the printer here has an issue with its paper roller, and the color streaks on the photo, aren't they from the same source as the photo in the victim's book? But in the next interrogation, the tycoon's lawyer tries to keep him quiet. But through investigation, the man in the photo is a constitutional court judge. This very person approved legal documents years ago for the tycoon to develop a hotel in a protected area. A photo taken 3 months ago shows this judge coincidentally vacationing with his wife at the tycoon's luxury hotel. Last week, when the victim found evidence, the tycoon learned about it through the social worker and immediately sent a text to a prepaid phone bought at a gas station. With the motive to hire a hitman, the tycoon wanted to eliminate this major problem. But now, with the 2 kids as witnesses, what are the odds a hitman would risk leaving them alive? For the sake of the kids' lives, the tycoon finally reveals the hitman's address. Karadek quickly arrests the hitman. But when we open the car door, the girls aren't inside. Through interrogation, the hitman admits he took hush money from the tycoon. But when he went to the victim's house, he saw Mia arguing with her ex-husband and left. This is strange. Mia never mentioned meeting her ex-husband on the day of the crime. If Mia knew her ex-husband planned to expose her father, doesn't that give her a motive to silence him? But hearing this, I refuse to believe a mother would gamble with her kids' lives. The hitman only left a potato at the scene, and the tire tracks were confirmed to be Mia's. Right then, Daphne reports that Mia withdrew all her savings before the bank closed and vanished right under the surveillance team's nose. I urgently call her. But Mia's phone is off. Though I still don't believe Mia would kidnap her own kids, Karadek insists we can't rule it out. We're at odds, but luckily Selena suggests we rest first and wait for updates by phone. But when I get home, I spot a clue on the television news. The Buddha statue in the photo was moved, and I realize someone clearly wanted to open the bookshelf, but nothing inside seems missing. This shows someone swapped something inside. I frantically search online and quickly find a famous antique dealer. Sure enough, I find Mia at the antique shop.
How did you know I'd be here?
Well, Google tells me that this guy is an expert in Chinese antiques and your mom loves China. Honestly, I think your family's hogging all the books on the subject. So tell me, am I correct that the Ming at your parents' house is a fake? Because it had a little boy playing Colin Maillard on it, and that wouldn't exactly be historically accurate, would it?
Well,
no, it's not, because Colin Maillard became a hit in the 16th century, so little boys wouldn't be playing it in the Ming. You know what? It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is, the Ming at your parents' house is not real because you put a fake in there to replace the real one, which is right here. So tell me, Mia, why do you need so much cash?
At this point, Mia has no choice but to tell the truth. A man claimed he kidnapped the kids, threatening to kill them if she didn't pay $2 million in ransom today. She wasn't allowed to tell the police, or he'd kill the kids like he did her ex-husband. She also couldn't admit to meeting her ex-husband because that would get her father arrested for a crime. She only went to beg her ex-husband not to snitch, but he stubbornly refused to listen. But when she returned home in despair, she found her kids had been taken by someone unknown. I decide to go with Mia to deliver the ransom at midnight. When we reach the meeting spot, Karadek's already waiting there. I think if my own kids were kidnapped, only the police could handle it properly. Right then, the kidnapper's phone rings, sending an address and stressing she must deliver the ransom alone. With only 5 minutes to act, Karadek attaches a tracker to the money bag and calls me. This way, with the phone in the bag, we can hear everything happening at the scene. Mia arrives at the hall as instructed. At that moment, a hook drops from behind, but after she places the money bag on it, there's still no sign of the kids. All that comes down with a clatter is the rope holding the hook. At the same time, a masked figure in black dashes out. Karadek chases after him, but despite taking a bullet, the culprit escapes. Then, a car speeds out the door, so the three of us race after the tracker. But at the scene, we find the car engulfed in flames. Karadek pries open the trunk in time, but there's no sign of the kids. The person and the money are gone, leaving the police staring helplessly at the scene. But my next discovery directly reveals the kidnapper's identity. When I turn on the radio, I unexpectedly hear a live sports betting broadcast. I suddenly recall seeing someone filling out a winning number. I notice the tycoon's driver always parks oddly under trees where bird droppings and sap are tough to clean. But from that spot, he could see Mia's window through the rearview mirror, so the driver must be in love with her. When he lost at gambling, he hatched a plan to kidnap the girls for ransom and to win her love. That way, when Mia was at her most desperate, the driver could swoop in like a knight, returning the kids and her love to the family. He struck when the victim and kids were eating dinner, then hurriedly buried the body in the greenhouse. The driver is arrested. We were so focused on John's fake alibi, but it was really Curtis who was hiding behind it. Though he openly admits to the murder and kidnapping, he still doesn't know where the kids are now. Because when they reached the deep mountains, the girls escaped while he wasn't looking. But that mountain area spans 970 square miles. So the police and rescue team immediately start searching. Based on the first rule in the book, when lost, follow the sunrise or migratory birds, meaning north. Sure enough, soon after, they find a pile of walnut shells.
Rule number 2, feed off forest resources. Rule number 3, indicate your presence with a recognizable sign.
Over here! This way!
And take shelter while you wait for help.
Finally, thanks to the survival guide written by the victim, I find the 2 girls missing for 2 days. Just like that, the missing persons case is solved. The mother and her 2 daughters are finally reunited. Karadek's full of confidence in me and acknowledges my skills in deduction and case solving.
Get some rest, detective.
You too, consultant.
A veterinarian is killed, and it looks like sudden death from a heart condition. But papers scattered from the printer across the floor clearly spell out murder. A red mark on the corpse's wrist awaits the autopsy report to reveal its cause. I find the tranquilizer gun, and the cages hold a ton of rare animals. Quickly, I notice a green poison dart frog with its species name clearly labeled. But on the right side of the cage, I don't see the other animal behind its nameplate. Looking up, I see the cage lock was tampered with by someone. I immediately think of the red mark on the victim's wrist, clearly a reaction to the frog's toxin. I'm about to warn my team when I see Karadek not paying attention, heading to wash his hands with the sanitizer. Since the toxin could be deadly, I don't hesitate and fire a shot. Luckily, the tranquilizer dose is mild, and Karadek wakes up quickly. Now, I explained that the hand sanitizer bottle might contain a paralyzing lethal toxin. The reason the victim used the printer was because she was too paralyzed to hold a pen. Fortunately, this new printer can be voice controlled, and the test results at the scene confirm my guess. Turning back to the two poisoned dart frogs, it's clear the other one was moved somewhere else. The wet tissue next to the body is proof the victim washed her hands while poisoned. So, in the hand sanitizer bottle, I bet we'll find the poisoned dart frog drowned inside. Right then, Selena calls, ordering Karadek and me to head to a barbershop to investigate because the owner reported a friend suddenly went missing last night. The owner's son had an important taekwondo match, and the friend promised to show up, but never did. Calls went unanswered, so, worried, the owner reported it to the police an hour later. 2 years ago, they met in a yoga class and quickly became super close friends, hiding nothing from each other. But during breakfast yesterday, the owner noticed her friend seemed really jittery. When asked, she wouldn't talk, only hinting she was in big trouble. Right then, the owner's son, just picked up from school by his dad, says something that makes the murky case take a huge leap forward.
You think that man hurt her?
Which man?
A few days ago, the owner took her son to the victim's vet clinic. While the owner went to grab coffee, the boy overheard the vet arguing loudly with a man. Curious, the boy peeked and caught a glimpse of the man's angry face. Based on the boy's description, the police quickly sketch a suspect portrait. But when shown to the victim's mother, she instantly recognizes it as her daughter's ex-boyfriend. The father next to her gets furious, saying their daughter was only 16 back then, dating a 1-year-old idiot for a year. Later, the idiot got arrested for robbing a convenience store because he slipped in flip-flops and accidentally fired a gun. So, they drifted apart from their daughter, living just 8 miles away, but not seeing her for 12 years. Though the file doesn't mention flip-flops, this guy was released from prison last month. However, when we summon the ex-boyfriend for questioning, we find out he has an airtight alibi from last night. Since getting out of prison, he's been wearing an electronic ankle monitor. After checking, the monitoring station's data backs up his story. The suspect we just identified is cleared, so the investigation goes back to square one. But I still feel something's off with the victim's parents' feelings toward their daughter. What caused them to not see each other for over a decade? I notice a coworker's takeout food is identical to the food at the crime scene. The delivery address on it is an apartment in Hollywood, not the vet clinic where the victim lived. We meet 2 teammates rushing to the apartment. They checked online reviews of the vet clinic, where most gave the vet 5 stars, but one person left tons of bad reviews, calling her a monster and vowing to make the cruel vet pay. Through investigation, we learned this person's beloved spider was sent for a routine checkup, but was reported to have an infectious virus and destroyed without a final goodbye.
She killed Fernanda. Okay, that's crazy.
Though this guy hated her guts, he's definitely not the murdering type. Once, to scare her, he followed her from the clinic to the Hollywood apartment. Just like that, the 2 officers quickly tracked down the apartment's address. Inside the apartment's drawers, there are tons of rare imported animals. The 2 colleagues recognized this as the tattooed guy's pet spider. It seems the victim was secretly dealing in rare animals worth tens of thousands of dollars. I find a photo of the victim with her best friend and her friend's son, along with a paper covered in numbers. Everyone thinks it's a black market price list, but I realize it's clearly shorthand for real estate listings. The victim kept clients' pets because she needed cash to buy property. Based on an address printed on a pen, Karadek and I head to a real estate agency. We learn the victim was planning to buy a big villa with her best friend. Seeing the flyer, it hits me.
Oh, I don't think she had a man in her life. Bees.
The reason the victim chose this place was because the garden's full of bees, just like the unique logo on the barbershop's window, also decorated with lots of bees. This shows the victim wanted to find a perfect home for the woman she loved. It turns out the 2 had moved beyond just close friendship. At the barbershop, the owner admits to an ambiguous relationship between them and was planning to take her son and reunite as a family to live happily together. But suspiciously, her husband recently found out about their text messages. So, the husband, who just picked up their son from school, is brought to the station. Thinking the husband's about to deny the murder, the police find a book about animals in his toolbox. Faced with undeniable evidence, the husband openly admits to killing out of jealousy.
All right, I did it. I killed Monica.
Thanks to the team's work, the murder case is finally solved. But I still don't get why 2 best friends, closer than sisters 2 years ago, had a kid still at yellow belt then, but already at purple belt in yesterday's match. Even if a kid trains taekwondo twice a week, I think jumping 5 ranks that fast is too quick. These doubts keep nagging at me. So, on the weekend, I take my kids to the store robbed 10 years ago. I noticed that after the robbery, the place installed a bunch of cameras. And that weird robbery back then? Why was the ex-boyfriend dumb enough to wear flip-flops?
I told you, he's a moron.
Hang on, how did you know he was wearing flip-flops?
I take my kids to the beach. That's where the victim's ex-boyfriend works as a fitness coach. I bluntly ask why he didn't tell the police back then that the vet was also in on the robbery. Otherwise, how would the victim's father know the case details? When he keeps playing dumb, I yank off his earphones. Getting no answer, I test my theory myself.
She was pregnant.
This time, the ex-boyfriend has nothing to say. The vet was pregnant as a teenager. Karadek's off enjoying a blind date during his break when I barge in unexpectedly.
Do you know this woman?
Yeah, I think so. I'm his wife, and these are his kids.
I'm certain the barbershop owner's son is adopted, and the vet and her ex-boyfriend are the kids' biological parents.
So Shane and Gavin both have preauricular sinuses, aka ear dimples. The point is, they're super rare. Only 0.1% of the population has them, and it's even rarer to have them in both ears. So if you do, it is 100% inherited.
So, that robbery years ago shows they pulled it off together, with the boyfriend taking the fall to completely cover for his girlfriend. And her teenage pregnancy was why the victim's father got so mad and cut her off. Maybe the barbershop owner learned the truth, turned love to hate, and carefully planned the murder. But there's still one question. Why did the innocent husband insist on confessing? Through questioning, the owner can't bear her husband going to jail and finally tells the truth. The vet pretended to love the owner, but she really wanted to get close to the adopted son. The argument the kid overheard was actually fully heard by the owner too. The vet didn't love her and was trying to take the son she'd worked so hard to raise. What worried her more was that the kid saw the vet as an idol. So, reluctantly, she planned the murder. But if it were any mother, I think they'd do the same without hesitation. At this point, the case is finally solved and the kid is reunited with his kind adoptive dad. The grandmother, seeing this, must realize her mistake and surely regrets cutting off her daughter years ago. My mind's a mess, and I suddenly think of my ex-husband, who mysteriously vanished years ago. A drunk woman, clothes all messy, is woken up by her phone ringing. She realizes she fell asleep on the couch in her boss's office again. The floor's a mess, and the glass in a picture frame is inexplicably smashed to bits. Big graffiti letters spelling forever are scrawled on the wall, and a woman's foot peeks out from behind the desk. In a pool of blood lies a cold corpse, the victim, her boss. The panicked assistant, Sam, calls the police, becoming the first suspect in the case. Karadek and I arrive at the scene, a health supplement company. Last night's celebration party dragged on until midnight. The victim was the company's owner, Elaine. But the murder weapon is the hard base of an award trophy. The broken glass in the frame looks like it was punched with a fist, and the big word forever on the wall might be a message from the killer. But unbelievably, the assistant Sam can't recall a thing from last night. She recently started taking medication, and combined with alcohol, it caused instant memory loss. Speaking of her boss, she was Sam's idol. After college, Sam became her assistant.
Sam, have you ever heard of a Duchenne smile?
I keenly noticed the Duchenne smile on her face, the kind of fake smile you see in service industries lacking sincerity. Plus, no matter how much an employee claims to love their boss, I think it's just surface flattery. Hearing this, Sam admits her boss was actually hard to get along with, constantly criticizing her work. Especially with a new product launch coming, her boss got secretive and paranoid, even changing the office locks. Her boss always felt like there were spies everywhere, and every workday was like hell. But strangely, Sam's memory of last night is completely blank, weirdly empty. Karadek and I go to Sam's office to look for clues. We find that at 10:21 p.m. last night, her computer has a garbled search history. It seems she was so drunk she couldn't type properly. Then we find the medication she's taking and everything matches her story. But in her notebook, I see a drawing of her killing her boss. This time, the assistant can't deny it, but still insists she remembers nothing. Karadek and I visit the victim's home, and surprisingly, her husband seems unusually calm. He was an angel investor for his wife's company. He attended the celebration party last night, but left the scene around 10 p.m. Their relationship had some issues lately, probably due to the stress of the new product launch. But hearing his wife was stabbed with a trophy, he's still shocked beyond belief. A report on Sam confirms the drugs and alcohol in her system could cause anterograde amnesia. And a check signed by the victim last night is for exactly $45,623. But what does the big word forever on the wall mean? Unfortunately, no fingerprints are found on the murder weapon. Now, everyone who attended the party is brought to the station. First, we question the former assistant Nina, but she left the scene at 9:30 p.m. Then, we question several employees, and the events of last night slowly come into focus. When we get to the HR director, we learn employees heard arguing from the office.
Time of death was around 11 p.m.
And how'd you get there?
Well, the karaoke machine logged all the songs played. The HR director sang at 10:53 p.m., and afterward, everyone heard the victim arguing with someone. Then, The marketing team sang a lively song, but amazingly, the arguing still cut through the loud rock music. From 10:58 to 11:01 p.m., the receptionist sang a soft song, but at that point, no one heard any sounds from the office. This suggests the victim was killed during those 3 minutes. So, helping Sam recover her memory becomes the key to cracking the case. With no other options, I take her to the bathroom.
Check your pockets.
I don't have any pockets.
I know, so check all the places you put stuff if you didn't have pockets.
Sam finds a creative selfie of herself holding a magazine with her boss on the cover. Could she really have killed her boss while unconscious? But I suddenly notice this lipstick color looks familiar. I tracked down the receptionist from last night to ask about the situation. It turns out she always had a thing for Sam, so she took a work opportunity to sneak into the party and have a few drinks. Following Sam to the bathroom, she unexpectedly saw a strange woman walk out. She hurriedly chased after her, but was too late before the elevator doors closed. The woman's appearance isn't clear, but there's a small square patch on her arm. Coincidentally, I spot this woman on a promotional poster in the lobby. She's one of the company's first product customers, a diabetic, and her insulin pump gave away her identity.
Is it this woman?
That's her. That was cool.
It's an insulin pump. She's diabetic.
Karadek and I immediately head to the woman's house to investigate. Though Carmen admits she was at the party last night, she refuses to mention anything that happened. Right then, I notice her furniture seems too sparse for the house, plus there's a stack of unemployment checks on the table. I wonder how this family afforded such a big house. Unexpectedly, my words leave them speechless. The couple instantly gets tense.
Okay.
I deliberately knock over a glass of water, and as Carmen rushes to catch it, she accidentally reveals a wound on her hand. So, the interrogation moves to the police station. Clearly, Carmen received a large sum of money from the victim to help craft a heartwarming story about how effective the product was for people. But then the deal went south, so in a fit of anger, she killed the victim. Faced with this solid reasoning, Carmen still stubbornly stays silent. Seeing a colleague typing nearby, I suddenly recall the garbled code on Sam's website, caused by misplaced fingers. Retyping the search yields results, and I wonder why the chemicals from the product could cause severe lung disease. I think I can make Carmen talk.
I think I can get Carmen to talk.
So, under my persuasion, the woman finally tells the truth. It turns out the chemicals in the new product caused Carmen's son to develop asthma. The victim offered a hefty hush money payment. Though she reluctantly accepted reality, she couldn't change the fact that her son was suffering in pain. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. So she snuck into the office and wrote forever on the wall. She stabbed the couch with a letter opener, accidentally cutting her hand. Right then, the victim walked in, threatening endless lawsuits. Though her husband disagreed, she wanted to end the non-disclosure deal and stop taking the money. She got scared and could only vent by smashing the picture frame on the wall. She really wanted to kill the victim to vent her rage, but it wouldn't help her son's condition. Furious, she left, but in the bathroom she met a woman, heard her tragic story, and suddenly got irrationally angry too.
I don't remember her name, but she was wearing
a sparkly floral dress.
Yeah.
After all this, the biggest suspect is still Sam, with her memory loss. I look at the victim's fake speech and quietly reflect. The victim's product development inspiration was all lies. She shamelessly copied traditional Chinese medicine formulas.
Where'd she get a traditional Chinese formula?
Does she have an acupuncturist?
During the conversation, I suddenly recall the former assistant Nina questioned first who had cupping therapy marks on her back. She also has a kid and was the first rep for this toxic product. Nina's brought back to the station's interrogation room. She recounts an incident with her daughter, and the boss bought her herbal oil formula. After quitting, she finally lived the life she wanted. But at the time of the crime, she was on her way to a hotel, so how did she know her sponsor was stabbed with a trophy? Right then, Kardec spots a hole in her story.
How long have you and Eric Barton been sleeping together?
Only the killer and the victim's husband knew the murder weapon. If Nina isn't the killer, she must have an affair with the victim's husband. So, before the party ended, they couldn't resist sneaking off to a hotel for a rendezvous. Now, all other suspects are cleared, and we can basically confirm the killer is the memory-impaired assistant. The only mystery is where the cash check went. When Sam hears the exact amount, she suddenly feels nauseous and rushes to the bathroom. The $45,623 is exactly the remaining balance of her student loan debt. All evidence points to her as the boss's killer, but she still doesn't remember anything.
Sometimes really good people do bad things.
Oh, my life is over.
No.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
However, the case should have ended here, but I firmly believe the assistant is innocent. holding the selfie, I suddenly recall something she said.
She got secretive, paranoid. She knew locks put on her door. It felt like she had eyes and ears everywhere.
Karadek and I returned to the crime scene. If the victim was that secretive and paranoid, I wonder why she hung a mirror behind her desk. I gently press it and find the mirror, and its reflection have no gap. It's clearly a two-way mirror. Then, I shine my phone's flashlight and sure enough, find a hidden camera behind it. After hearing the product user's tragic story, the assistant immediately confronted her boss to quit. The victim offered to pay off her student loans to keep her quiet. But in a drunken haze, she flat out refused, and I think she wanted to expose the truth to the media, refusing to let the cruel victim keep deceiving people. Seeing her life's work about to be ruined, the victim grabbed scissors and lunged aggressively. The two got into a drunken brawl. Sam was accidentally pushed into a chair, and they wrestled for a long time. Sam landed an instinctive kick, sending the victim flying, but she herself slammed hard into the desk. At that moment, the victim was accidentally stabbed in the stomach with the trophy and fell to the floor. Since Sam was injured in the head, she staggered onto the couch and passed out. Her actions were clear self-defense, and with a good lawyer, she won't go to jail. Just like that, another case is solved. I also become friends with my colleagues at the Los Angeles Police Department.
So far, this isn't a job I want to run from, and that's mainly because of you.
It means a lot. And for the record, I wouldn't let you.
As my bond with colleagues grows stronger, I bring my daughter to the police station for the first time today. But I never expect that we'd run into a terrorist attack. Don't think it's tough. Just find a cop who doesn't look too sharp and grab the gun from his hand. Once they've got hostages under control, the first step is done. Plus, the two terrorists sent a package earlier containing a carefully prepared bomb. No one dares to mess with their own life, and even if a fearless cop tries to test their speed, they're ready. Nobody dares to make a move. In a corner, no one notices, I quickly type on my phone. I just want my daughter waiting outside to run away fast. At this point, the two terrorists start collecting phones and proactively contact the police with a simple demand.
An innocent man is about to spend his life in prison for a murder he did not commit, which gives you a second chance to find the real killer.
Nobody walks out of here alive unless you do.
So, who's your best detective?
I am.
By now, the SWAT team has surrounded the building, and the identities of the two terrorists are uncovered. They're active-duty U.S. military soldiers. No one knows how the bomb was brought in, but no one dares gamble with the hostages' lives. To avoid casualties, they can only try to meet the two terrorist demands. A few days ago, a military officer was killed in his car. The police quickly arrested a soldier under his command. The murder weapon at the scene had the soldier's fingerprints, plus they'd argued over deployment locations. No matter how they investigated, this soldier was the only suspect. As evidence on the case board piles up, I immediately spot a clue the police missed.
Excuse me.
Who are you?
You a cop?
No, I'm a consultant.
Time's tight, so I point straight to the crime scene. The photo shows blood splattered on the desk, which should have formed an ellipse, but I notice the blood stain is missing a corner, meaning there was likely a paper or object on the desk at the time. Whatever it was, the killer definitely wanted to take it. If we figure it out, we might find the real killer the two terrorists mentioned. I request to make a phone call. He follows my lead back to the crime scene. After accessing the computer, it turns out the victim printed a document before dying preparing to court-martial a soldier, but the name column was blank. The real killer likely had a motive to murder because of this. Right then, the terrorist Jeremy suddenly loses his cool, but as he approaches, he realizes it's just a little girl, my daughter. The number of hostages instantly goes up by 1. My heart's a bit rattled, but my mind stays sharp. I check the victim's phone for the map. After syncing the location history with colleagues outside, I find the victim visited a black market full of illegal goods. Given the victim's character, I'm sure he wasn't shopping, but likely looking for someone. In other words, I deduce the real killer, who was about to face a court-martial, likely has a history of using banned substances. If we screen the soldiers the victim trained, we might find this person. But this task takes time and effort, clearly not doable in a short window. As one of the two terrorists grows distracted, a cop tries to play hero. In the chaos, a gunshot rings out. The cop's clothes are covered in blood, but he's unharmed. Instead, Tom, a janitor who rushed to help, takes a bullet to the thigh. The bullet likely hit an artery. I demand he get medical help immediately. But Jeremy, still fuming from the attack, won't budge, so I try persuading the female terrorist, Brooke. Based on Brooke's earlier small actions, I realize she's the girlfriend of the suspect, Logan. Plus, they're preparing to have a kid, since I notice injection sites for fertility hormones which cause dry, itchy red skin. Combined with earlier case board statements, I deduced they're planning to settle locally, so Logan approached the victim, hoping to be stationed in Los Angeles, but it became his motive for murder. After assuring we'll find the real killer, Brooke agrees to release the injured man and the child. With no more worries holding me back, I fully focus on finding the true killer. Right then, Karadok makes a discovery, checking cameras near the crime scene and spotting a suspicious person, but he's wearing a hood, so the face isn't clear. Jeremy loses patience, yelling that the police are just stalling. Hearing the word time, I instantly recall the victim's phone call history. On the day of the crime, the victim canceled dinner with his daughter and didn't make any more calls, but knew the addicted soldier went to the black market. I wonder how he knew. From a receipt found in the car, the victim bought a luggage tracker, the kind used at airports to locate suitcases. But in a soldier's hands, I think it could have been modified into a tracking device. He was tracking someone.
He was tracking a person.
So, by opening that tracking app, we can pinpoint the real killer's location. Karadek, act fast. Soon, in an alley, they catch a man. As I suspected, he was caught by his superior for using banned substances. To avoid a court-martial, he took a desperate shot, unaware he'd been tagged with a tracker beforehand. The case is successfully cracked and the two terrorists' goal is achieved. But they still don't drop their guns, or the detonator. I try my hand at negotiating, but Jeremy suddenly gets difficult, demanding a new deal. He wants an armored car, or he'll set off the bomb in his hand. But I confidently declare the bomb is definitely fake. The reason is, since the 1991 Montreal Conference, all U.S. explosive manufacturers are required to mix in a material that gives off a distinct smell. Humans might not smell it, but dogs are super sensitive to it. So, whatever's in that box, in my memory, no dog showed any special interest in it. If you insist it's a homemade bomb by the female terrorist, I wonder why a woman preparing to get pregnant would handle toxic materials. I already figured out the two didn't plan this together. I recall this morning when I saw Jeremy, he kept complaining about wanting to leave early, not at all like he was waiting for an accomplice. Brooke, snapping out of her daze, agrees with my take.
She's right. There's no bomb.
They got what they wanted, so they pay the price for their impulsiveness. The case finally wraps up. Logan is freed as innocent, and Brooke, being pregnant, avoids jail time.
But you put my child in danger. I hope that one day you're fortunate enough to experience what that feels like firsthand. But until then, you just better thank your lucky stars I'm not on your jury.
The only one hurt is Jeremy, the one who loved but wasn't loved back. After showing my extraordinary deduction skills, I instantly become a star at the station. Everyone wants my input on their cases. I even get my own desk, which means I finally have a place at the Los Angeles Police Department. This is the body of a woman who died just 28 minutes ago. There's a clear wound on her head from a blunt object. I lightly touch her pulse and instantly spot a major mistake by the police. I hold my watch's glass near the victim's nose and am shocked to see a thin layer of condensation form.
Because there was no detectable pulse at the time.
She's still alive.
Though the girls rushed to the hospital, this murder case still needs investigating. What's a bit surprising is the 2-year-old victim had a 7-year-old boyfriend named Morris. When he hears his girlfriend's been hospitalized, he shows no emotional reaction at all. Their relationship seems perfectly normal, clearly not motive enough for murder. The problem lies with the victim herself. In her records, her name's clearly Penny, but she used a fake name with her boyfriend. Could she be a con artist who got targeted for revenge? I visit where the girl lived, but according to her landlord, Penny was a good person, friendly with everyone, and never late on rent. Since her boyfriend died, she became quieter. The boyfriend mentioned here isn't the white-haired old man at the station, but Lucas, Penny's first boyfriend, killed 2 years ago. Her place is full of memories of the two of them. Is Penny's case tied to Lucas's death? I quickly noticed something.
Do you have any idea how much this bag costs?
The bag's super pricey, but I wonder why a girl who can afford luxury lives in such a cheap rental. Plus, a credit card bill on the table shows Penny spent $2,500 a month to rent a billboard.
Why does a woman hide her identity, date a rich guy while going into serious debt trying to keep up appearances?
I accidentally find something lifting clothes in her closet. Penny hid her identity to investigate the truth behind her first boyfriend's death.
Could have something to do with that.
2 years ago, Lucas was found dead on a beach, and with no cameras nearby, the police still haven't caught the killer. I find rice grains in Lucas's hair and traces of antifreeze in his nose. Could he have gone to a wedding before dying and had antifreeze poured in his nose? Luckily, Penny helped point them to a lead. These are all people connected to a tennis club. Lucas, who died, was a tennis coach there. Penny knew she couldn't become a club member, so she dated a member to investigate. Since she was getting close to the truth, the killer tried to silence her. Karadek and I head to the club. From the owner, Eddie, I learned the club was inherited by him and his brother Blaine from their grandfather. The brothers are super close, the type who'd sacrifice for each other. But on Lucas and Penny's cases, both choose silence. I get more info from the receptionist guy. Last night, he got punched by a member. It was because he stopped the member from using banned substances. If this guy was kicked off the beach before Penny's attack, he could be the killer or at least a key witness. Luckily, the manager still remembers his name, Cameron Smith, aka Swizz. They happened to see the name on a surfboard matching what the manager mentioned. After questioning, the man admits he talked to Penny last night. But he only warned her to stop following him, as if he were the one who killed her boyfriend. The meeting happened around 9 p.m. before he entered the club. Plus, he wasn't dealing banned substances, but only came to demand money from the club's owner, Blaine. Right then, Adam gets word that Penny has woken up. Karadak and I rushed to the hospital, but sadly, Penny didn't get a clear look at her attacker's face. She admits she was trying to find her boyfriend's killer, and the necklace around her neck is a symbol of their love. Before the attack, she uncovered that Lucas had a heated conflict with Blaine. Karadak and I head back to the club, but Eddie seems prepared and has already hidden his brother Blaine. But I noticed the souvenirs on the shelf, which Eddie said were bought from shops during their travels around Mediterranean countries. I keep feeling something's missing. Karadak's a bit pissed. If he's got nothing to hide, why run? But he's got no choice. Getting a search warrant is a hassle, especially since we don't have solid evidence right now. As I step out of the office, I spot something interesting. Back at the hospital, Penny said the diamond necklace her boyfriend gave her was one of a kind, but now a woman at the club is wearing an identical one. Real or fake is easy to tell. Real diamonds sparkle white in sunlight, while fake ones, often moissanite, reflect rainbow colors. After some grilling, the woman reluctantly spills the truth. She's actually the wife of a city councilman and had an affair with the club owner, Blaine. Lucas found out about it, so she gave him the necklace as hush money.
I gave the real one to Lucas.
Lucas then used the necklace as an engagement gift for Penny. The relationships between these people are getting super tangled, but complex relationships only prove a motive for murder. I get back to the case itself. Lucas was found with dry hair but wet pants. The coroner estimated the time of death at around 10 p.m. From night until morning when he was found, the beach should have had 2 high tides in those 4 hours. If the beach was the primary crime scene, Lucas should have been soaked head to toe. So, he was likely killed elsewhere, stuffed in a suitcase, and secretly brought to the beach at night when it was empty. But the problem is, the case is 2 years old. How do we find the original scene with rice and antifreeze? I'm not ready to clock out and go home. I keep feeling a critical clue's been missed. Thinking alone isn't cutting it, so I grab my car keys and knock on Kardak's door. In this case, tons of people had motives to kill, but I think the key is still the murder weapon. I wonder what could kill someone and leave rice grains behind. Could it be a vacuum-sealed rice bag? Karadak and I talk all night, but still don't find a satisfying answer. Seeing it's late, I get up to say goodbye. As I open the door to head downstairs, I suddenly notice a flickering hallway light. I finally figure it all out. Karadak's about to sleep when I wake him up. Back in the early 20th century, someone trying to make a brighter light bulb accidentally invented the snow globe. To make the snow look realistic, after testing materials, they settled on rice grains for snow. To sell in cold European regions, snow globes often had antifreeze added. This is the source of the rice and antifreeze on Lucas. The snow globe was the murder weapon in this case. Remember the souvenir display in Eddie's office? He said they were trinkets from Mediterranean countries, but I noticed every country was there except Greece. Based on this, I boldly guess Lucas must have been fed up with Blaine's licentious behavior, along with banned substances and scams, so he went to Eddie to snitch. But he didn't count on their brotherly bond, and he got taken out on the spot. Then, Penny showed up, investigating her boyfriend's truth, racking up credit card debt to rent billboards. This made Eddie feel threatened, so he had to eliminate the problem. Though these are only circumstantial clues, they're enough for the police to get a search warrant. Finally, after a tough chase, Eddie's caught trying to flee, facing charges for 2 murders. As the case is cracked, I get good news from Selena. Before disappearing, Roman met multiple times with a guy named Geo Conforth, but I've never heard that name. He's a businessman in both legit and shady worlds. Selena's tracked him down and believes she'll soon give Ella an answer.
So we're working on a plan to get him here. Set up an interview, get some answers.
This Geo sounds like a hard guy to find.
He is.
But you found him, didn't you?
I did.
I walk around the car accident scene and instantly help the police identify the hit-and-run vehicle.
It was a Jensen Interceptor. Malaga Blue, maybe 73, 74.
My colleagues are immediately stunned. There's no surveillance camera at the scene, and the only witness says they heard an engine roar like an airplane.
Bond felt he was in a low-flying plane rather than an automobile as he accelerated the Jensen. The Jensen Interceptor had a Chrysler V8 engine, loud as hell, like a plane taking off.
Plus, the green paint scraped on the victim's watch, combined with such a narrow wheelbase, rules out an American car, since the axle spacing is only 69 inches, way too short for a U.S. sports car. So, I realized the hit-and-run car is a Jensen Interceptor, and its color is Majolica blue. Since the crash happened at midnight, the witness couldn't see the car's shape clearly, but to avoid surrounding cameras, the driver must now be hiding the car in a garage. After a search, we find a suspicious car in a public garage.
Ta-da! That's a Jensen Interceptor.
The front bumper is dented, and the paint's chipped, but sadly the license plate's been removed. The victim was a famous socialite MC, so the case gets major attention. According to the witness, the hit-and-run car backed up after hitting the victim to run them over again, clearly aiming to kill. Surprisingly, the victim's son shows up at the station on his own. He insists the killer is definitely his dad's young mistress. Years ago, his dad even wrote a will, naming her the sole heir. But shortly before, he suddenly said he wanted to rewrite the will. The girlfriend must have found out and killed him over the inheritance. Karadek and I head to the victim's house right away. The person greeting us is the young black woman, Tiana. While grabbing water from the fridge, I take a moment to check out the house's decor. Back in the living room, I deliberately nudge Karadek aside and secretly slip something from the couch into my pocket. Then I chat with Tiana. It turns out Tiana's just the housekeeper now, and their relationship was a bit shady, but there was no physical stuff going on. Plus, Tiana doesn't know how to drive, so she can't possibly be the killer. Back in the car, Karadek thinks Tiana's definitely not telling the truth. I don't think so. For a healthy guy to get romantic, blood's got to flow to the right places. The victim was on blood thinners and antidepressants, and I realized that combo would make it impossible for a 70-year-old man to get romantic. But I sensed Tiana genuinely loved him because in the fridge she still drew a little heart on his lunch bag. While talking, a phone suddenly rings. It's Tiana's phone, the one I found on the couch. I was planning to keep it to check for clues, but Karadek disagrees, so I return the phone. But the number that just popped up on the screen catches my attention. Meanwhile, Daphne and Lev visit the victim's neighbor, Phil. Their investigation shows the two often argued and sued each other over a pet dog and yard landscaping. But at the time of the crime, Phil was with his secretary with a solid alibi. Luckily, Karadek arrives in time, and the police confirm Phil is the owner of the Jensen Interceptor. Surprisingly, after getting a search warrant, Phil doesn't resist at all and is actually thrilled. It turns out the Interceptor was stolen weeks ago, and he reported it to the police but didn't expect much. Who'd have thought that right after his annoying neighbor died, the car would be found, a double win. In his excitement, Phil spills a secret about the victim. Every time the victim went on a business trip, a motorcycle parked in the neighbor's garage overnight. As a good neighbor, how could he let the victim get cheated on? So, he secretly left a note for the victim. Sadly, he doesn't know what happened after that, only that the victim came back from a trip a day early. It seems this is why the victim wanted to rewrite the will. But how do we find the car thief who's also the killer? Phil provides footage from the day the garage was broken into. The thief's face is covered, but I use the phone to identify him.
Killer's name is Olivier Dubois, and he works at Hollywood Auto.
When I picked up the young woman's phone, I saw a call from Hollywood Auto. From what I know, mechanics are some of the best flirts. Plus, the suspect's shoes have a big logo from a famous French brand showing he's got a sense of style. More importantly, this guy's 6 feet 5 inches tall. He's standing by a brick wall. Each brick is 8 inches tall, and I calculate he's about 9.5 bricks, so 76 inches, plus 1 inch for mortar, making 6 feet 5 inches. Auto shops often post employee photos on their website's homepage, so I think from a woman's perspective, who would you want to date out of them? The answer is obvious, only one. Olivier Dubois, the handsome 6'5" Frenchman. As for the motive, it's shockingly simple. When the victim found out he was being cheated on, he got furious and kicked the mechanic out of the house. The guy held a grudge, knew the victim was in a legal dispute with the neighbor, so he stole the neighbor's classic car to stage the murder as a hit and run, making it easy for police to pin it on the unlucky neighbor. Adam and I head to the auto shop to investigate, but when he sees the police, the suspect bolts. Adam moves lightning fast, tackling him with a slick move, and the suspect can't escape. The truth is finally out. Tiana finally opens up, admitting she truly loved the victim on an emotional level. But due to his physical issues, she turned to Olivier. Both were people she loved, and she really didn't want anyone to get hurt. When the case wraps up, I get praised at a press conference for the first time. I don't miss the chance to show off, snapping a selfie and posting it on social media right away. Right after the press conference, Selena brings good news. My husband, Roman, who went missing, finally has a lead. Guided by a middleman, I arrive at a church. I see him walk inside. But a strange unease suddenly wells up in my heart. I start to feel uncertain, not knowing what's waiting for me ahead. This little girl plays on a slide but gets stuck halfway by something. A worried parent crawls in, only to pull out a woman's stiff body. The coroner's check shows the victim, Tara, was likely attacked, hid in the slide, passed out, and died from massive blood loss. The key issue is that Tara had good relationships and no missing belongings, so we can basically rule out murder from revenge or robbery. I grab the phone from the victim's pocket and easily unlock it with facial recognition. There's an angry voicemail on the phone from Tara's employer. Tara was a family nanny, and staying out all night angered her boss. Listening to the voicemail, their relationship clearly wasn't great, so could the employer be the killer? I immediately dismissed this theory.
What murderer leaves someone an angry message after killing them?
The smart one.
The back door opens, and this employer's family is clearly a bit unusual. 2 men raising a child together. They're shocked by Tara's death since she got along so well with the kid, almost like family. But I noticed something off, so I use the excuse that leather pants aren't comfy for sitting and wander around the house. The 2 employers say they trusted Tara completely, so I wonder why they installed hidden cameras in the house.
What?
Jeff clearly didn't know about this, but I can't blame him. If I hadn't researched deeply when hiring a nanny, who'd think plants, globes, or even kids' toys could hide cameras. Brett explains he was just uneasy. When they hired their previous nanny, Rosa, someone posted online that Rosa left their kid alone at the library to have tea with friends. After firing Rosa, when Tara started working, the accusatory posts only increased. To verify if those posts were true, Brett not only set up cameras but also hired a private investigator to look into Tara. That's why he sent an angry voicemail when Tara didn't come home all night. Next, Karadek and I meet the private investigator hired to check on Tara. He might have useful clues. Coincidentally, the investigator is an old friend of Karadek's, once called the Los Angeles Dynamic Duo. But a gun misfire broke the investigator's ankle, forcing early retirement, and now he occasionally works as a PI for extra cash. Though he never spills client secrets, who can resist Karadek, his old buddy? But on Tara there are thousands of photos, and checking each one is exhausting. They bring the photos back to the station, asking the forensics team to work overtime tonight. I head to the home of the poster, Karina, but when shown the accusatory posts, Karina says she didn't write them. Nowadays, anyone can grab a random photo and some personal info online to easily impersonate someone. She admits she once called out a nanny named Rosa for being awful, leaving a kid alone at the library. But after posting, she got flooded with private messages cursing her for meddling, so she ended up deleting her account. She doesn't know the victim at all, so she had no reason to smear her. I quietly take a look around the house. It's a happy family of 4, but since Karina doesn't trust nannies, her husband Mark is now staying home with the kids. So Karina and the victim likely didn't know each other. Next, Karadek and I rushed to the victim's place. Tara usually only came home on weekends. I dump out her closet, and it seems the victim followed some kind of religion. She even went to church on the 27th, the day she was killed. From a photo printed on her desk, Karadek notices Tara seemed to know someone was slandering her. There's a lawyer's phone number on the wall. She probably asked how to seek justice. Karadek calls, but the lawyer refuses to share details of their client consultation. The lawyer's from an immigration law firm, and since Tara's a born and bred American, why would she need an immigration lawyer? I grab the trash can from the victim's room. I'm the best at finding evidence in garbage. A bar flyer catches my eye, and the singer's name on it matches one I saw on Tara's phone, full of flirty text messages sent to her. But when we track him down, the singer's first words stun me.
I know who killed her.
Sadly, due to timing issues, Karadek can't keep an innocent witness at the station overnight, so the questioning is pushed to the next day. We've got tons of leads now, but they still don't help the police pinpoint a suspect. Luckily, after a night of work, we finally find something useful in the thousands of photos. Karina's husband, Mark, is sitting with Tara, chatting and laughing happily. Mark's holding a baseball bat that looks exactly like the murder weapon. I can tell at a glance their relationship isn't normal since Tara's wearing Mark's jacket. The jacket's logo is from the old Seattle Supersonics, and in the family photo at Karina's house, there's Seattle's iconic building. The bar singer from last night shows up at the station, claiming the killer is Mark. He insists Tara didn't love a married man and that Mark must have been obsessed, turning love to hate and killing her. He seems to be all talk, spouting baseless info. It turns out Mark was a member of a Seattle baseball team. But digging deeper, we find the nanny just borrowed Mark's jacket because it was cold. The suspicious-looking baseball bat is actually just a kid's plastic toy. They only met by chance while taking kids to the park. At most, they're just casual acquaintances. At this point, the investigation hits a dead end. Luckily, we find a key clue in the private investigator's photos. The nannies in the area are super tight, practically spending every day caring for kids together. Plus, the coroner found no defensive wounds on the victim's body. This suggests the killer was likely someone she knew. Back at the park, Karadek and I meet the group of nannies who worked with Tara. This time, I keenly notice they all have colored stickers on their lunchboxes. But what's suspicious is they all insist Tara's only friend was Mark. Yet one day, Mark's wife showed up yelling at Tara and Mark, and they had a huge fight. We head to Karina's workplace, but facing the police, Karina, who's in a meeting, seems very annoyed. She reaffirms her innocence, saying she didn't post anything harmful about Tara, only the first post was hers. That day, she barely had a free lunch break, took her daughter to the library, and found Rosa left the kid alone, nearly running into traffic, so she posted out of anger. Hearing this, I suddenly catch the keyword lunch break. No wonder I always found those posts odd. They were all posted around noon, right after story time when the kids nap, the rare moment nannies get a break. Karina's so busy, how could she have time to monitor and post about a nanny every day? The only one with a motive must be Tara's colleagues, the nannies at the park. Don't let their outward praise for Tara fool you. Faced with a hard-working colleague earning less, they felt pressured to keep up and probably badmouthed her behind her back. Plus, Rosa, the one Tara replaced, is part of this little clique. You can tell from the sticker on her lunchbox.
Each of the kids had a Spice Girls sticker on their lunchbox, which was clearly for the nannies, because what 3-year-old gives a zig-a-zig-ah about a 30-year-old band? Except there was one Spice Girl missing. Sporty Spice was tucked away in the back of the shelf in Brett and Jeff's house. Tara didn't want to use that lunchbox because the Spice Girl stickers were the original 5 nannies thing.
And Tara was on the outs.
So you think all the nannies killed Tara because they were mad she replaced Rosa?
Nope, Oksana did.
Because Oksana's the only Russian nanny. In the posts, only the first one capitalized days and months since Karina wrote it. But the later ones used lowercase, and I realized that's a Russian writing habit. The real reason Oksana killed was tied to a religious conflict.
In 1054, there was a huge fight between Western and Eastern churches called the Great Schism.
From then on, followers of both sides stopped getting along. They even changed how they made the sign of the cross. One used 5 fingers, the other 3. Earlier, when talking to the nannies, I noticed Oksana follows Orthodoxy. The items in Tara's house show she was Catholic. Remember the red-marked holiday on Tara's calendar? Since Catholics use the Gregorian calendar and Orthodox use the Julian, I realized the 27th was when Orthodox celebrate the Ascension. As a Catholic, Tara went to church that day, actually, to confront Oksana, demanding she stop posting smears online. So, Tara consulted a lawyer, since impersonation involves identity fraud. As a Russian, if convicted, Oksana could face deportation. Tara tried to use this as leverage, but the killer struck directly. In a panic, Tara hid in the slide, but died from her severe wounds. Karadek questions each nanny separately. At first, they're tight-lipped, insisting they were together all night to give Oksana an alibi. Until Karadek says he'll check the cameras, their attitudes shift, and they don't hesitate to sell out their friend.
Oksana wasn't there. Oksana is a very scary lady.
She made us lie. Oksana swore it was an accident.
As I suspected, Oksana, driven by extremism, egged on by friends, impersonated Karina's account to smear Tara. When she heard she'd face deportation to Russia, she lost it.
Tara had no idea what going back would mean for me. That's why I pick up that rock. I couldn't take a risk. I would always be looking over my shoulder. I choose prison here over going back to Russia any day.
And so you have.
An old man killed his son-in-law 10 years ago, but only confessed to his family on his deathbed.
I killed Barry.
The family members present couldn't believe their ears. But the old man directly recorded the entire murder process in a video with shocking evidence. News quickly reaches the police station, and the 2 officers who handled the case back then pop champagne to celebrate. Selena's furious, feeling challenged that a case unsolved for 10 years ended like this.
The Bucket Lane murder.
This was one of the top 10 unsolved cases in Los Angeles. Back then, Selena was still a detective directly investigating the case. The suspect was acquitted due to lack of evidence. The murder happened the Monday after Thanksgiving. The son-in-law was killed in the family's sauna. Early in the morning, the housekeeper found the charred body. At first glance, it seemed like an accident, but the autopsy report showed the cause of death was a broken neck. Police theorized the killer pushed the victim down the stairs, breaking his neck, then moved him to the sauna to hide the truth. The mother-in-law of the house said that at midnight, she saw her son-in-law in a bathrobe heading to the basement alone. Back then, the whole family was already in bed, and she didn't hear any unusual sounds. However, in the laundry basket, they found a blood stain from the victim on a shirt, and the shirt's owner was the old man who just passed away. So, he instantly became the prime suspect. Surprisingly, around the same time, police arrested a dealer of banned substances in a parking lot just 5 blocks from the crime scene. Among the victim's belongings, traces of cocaine were found. The defense lawyer argued it could have been a killing over a bad deal with banned substances. Plus, the criminal had visited the house that night. Not to mention, The old man was a philanthropist and a respected local chamber of commerce president. Most importantly, he'd had hip replacement surgery, making it impossible for him to drag a body to the sauna. So, the jury unanimously declared him not guilty. And so, this mysterious case dragged on for 10 years, becoming an unrelenting obsession for the police chief.
Every cop has that one case they can't get out of their head. This one's mine.
To ease her lingering regret, Selena hands me the unsolved case file. Just glancing at the crime scene photos, I spot a small detail the police missed back then. After a night of intense study, I even recreate the entire murder process in detail.
George Donovan did not push his son-in-law down the stairs. In fact, no one did.
It turns out the killer overheard the victim bathing in the hallway bathroom and quietly slipped in. He found a hairdryer, which matches the autopsy report's mention of a heart attack. The killer knew this well, plugged the hairdryer in, and tossed it into the bathtub. The victim was instantly electrocuted, and right then the outlet sparked a fire. He quickly put out the flames, but couldn't avoid leaving traces of a murder. However, the challenge was getting the body up to the laundry chute on the upper floor. This action caused the victim's neck to break and left a bloodstain on the old man's shirt. Then, he pushed the body into the sauna, positioning the victim as if relaxing in the heat. Finally, he placed an empty wine bottle nearby, staging the scene as a drunken accident.
And that is how Barry Johnson met his maker.
My colleagues are stunned. A case unsolved for 10 years is cracked by me, a consultant, in just one night. No one expected I'd find solid evidence, too. The burned outlet in the room was replaced with a different electrical panel. Not only that, the killer deliberately replaced wall patches to cleverly hide scorch marks. But the issue is, modern hairdryers have electric shock protection, so how could it kill someone? Actually, the Consumer Product Safety Commission only issued manufacturing standards in 1990. But I find the hairdryer in this house is a vintage model from the 80 seconds before those regulations. As for the mother-in-law saying she saw her son-in-law heading downstairs, she might have been tipsy and mistaken. However, if the victim was killed before midnight, any family member could be the killer. Right after, Selena takes Karadek and me to meet the family. Unexpectedly, just as they leave, a reporter shows up at the station for an interview.
Hi, I'd like to speak to your detectives about the Bucket Lane murder.
The female reporter brings a documentary poster, claiming she knows the man who just died gave a false confession. It turns out she's his eldest daughter-in-law. Her father-in-law signed a deal to film a documentary about the murder, but suddenly demanded it be canceled a few weeks ago. The reason given was he didn't want the family to suffer more. If so, why did he confess to the murder right before dying? This documentary is her big project, so she wants to gather more material about the investigation at the station. But the reporter's bold move catches the eye of a lieutenant who worked the case years ago. That means Selena's running out of time. If she can't reopen the case, her superiors will face serious trouble. Meanwhile, we're allowed into the mansion to verify case details. When we open the bathroom outlet, we're shocked to find scorch marks. Then, we move the double bed in the victim's bedroom, instantly revealing a charred wall panel. I stuff a dummy into the laundry chute while Selena and Karadek stand in the basement to test my theory.
That'd break a neck.
She was right.
When the whole family returns to the mansion, we immediately start questioning them. The 5 living family members include the victim's wife on the left, the victim's son in the middle, and the victim's mother-in-law on the right. Behind them are the victim's sister-in-law and brother-in-law. First, the whole family took a group photo, then started dinner. Soon after, the victim began throwing insults at everyone. The father-in-law was visibly upset. The youngest son felt disgusted and left the dining room. Unexpectedly, right then, the wife's sleeve caught fire from a candle on the table. After putting out the fire, everyone was horrified to see bruises on her, clear signs of abuse. The father-in-law immediately got furious. Surprisingly, the son-in-law stubbornly denied everything. The brother-in-law, enraged, lunged to attack him, but the victim acted dismissive and casually went upstairs. The dinner ended in tension. That night, no one agreed to let the couple sleep in the same room. The eldest daughter-in-law went to help pack up. At that moment, the victim was watching TV and blatantly threw pajamas in her face. Then, the family started a card game. The son happily went downstairs to join. But oddly, the victim's TV upstairs was so loud it disturbed the whole floor below. So, the brother-in-law and sister-in-law volunteered to go upstairs to stop the victim. The mother told them to also pack up the Christmas decorations. However, when they got there, no one saw the victim. They knocked, but no one answered, so they eventually left. Afterward, the brother-in-law went to the attic as the mother instructed. At the same time, the eldest daughter-in-law saw her drug-addicted younger brother meeting a dealer right outside the house. After everyone went to bed, the mother-in-law was the last to clean up the living room. She had a glass of wine, turned around and suddenly saw her son-in-law in a bathrobe heading to the basement alone. With events so intertwined, I still can't deduce who the real killer island. Right then, the former police chief brings the detective who handled the case to the house. He can't accept the huge risk of reinvestigating a case only to fail again. If that happens, the whole station will face a media storm. At that moment, a thought hits me. Looking at the remote control, I suddenly figure out the real killer's identity.
Lieutenant.
Yeah.
I know who did it.
Then, in front of the station's leadership and the victim's family, I finally reveal the answer. It turns out the mother-in-law really saw wrong. The person in the bathrobe going to the basement wasn't the son-in-law because the victim was already dead before midnight. The real killer was the son, the one who seemed the most harmless. Having long known his father abused his mother, he decided to end it all for good. While hiding upstairs, he overheard his father bathing in the bathroom. Seeing it as the perfect chance, he quietly grabbed a hairdryer, plugged it in, and threw it into the bathtub. He expected his father to die instantly, but didn't anticipate the outlet catching fire. So he quickly changed his plan. First, he dragged his father's body to the laundry chute and threw it down. Then, he went back to clean up all traces of the fire. Next, he calmly joined the family card game downstairs. This created a perfect alibi. At midnight, under his grandmother's watch, he snuck to the basement. The mother-in-law only saw the bathrobe and didn't realize it wasn't her son-in-law. Then, he moved the body and staged it as someone relaxing in the sauna. He even deliberately placed an empty wine bottle nearby. Finally, he turned up the sauna's heat, thinking everything was perfect. He didn't forget to hang the bathrobe on the rack outside. However, he didn't expect that falling from the chute would break his father's neck. This caused a drop of blood to splatter on his grandfather's shirt. But faced with such tight reasoning, can he keep denying it? The son's mother immediately objects, saying her son was playing games all night. Plus, her husband was still watching TV loudly back then. But my next explanation completely breaks the son's psychological defense. It turns out the TV remote in the house uses radio frequency, with a wider and more flexible range. While playing cards with the family, he kept changing the TV channels upstairs, making everyone think his father was still there. At this point, the son finally bows his head and admits his crime. He long wanted to confess, but his grandfather used his entire life to protect him. This left him living in guilt and shame, feeling like a failure. But he didn't know he was still a minor back then. With a good lawyer, he might have only faced 3 years in prison. Just like that, the 10-year-old case is finally solved. My skills are recognized by the chief. This also proves Selena's special consultant program was absolutely the right call. That night, leaving work, I suddenly noticed a new 5-star badge on my jacket. This morning, a man steps off a private jet and suddenly foams at the mouth, collapsing dead. The coroner's initial check confirms he was poisoned. But since the victim, Anson, was the head of an AI company, the FBI wants to take over the case. I quickly head to the FBI's Data Analysis Division with Karadec. The FBI's criminal data expert offers an opinion. The killer is likely a single, unemployed white male. Most importantly, he has the expertise to easily access the victim. Doesn't that mean the killer could be a professional assassin?
Do you have something you want to add?
Well, I don't have any formal training in profiling.
We know.
The atmosphere gets tense, but I don't flinch. Given the victim's controversial stance on technology, I believe the killer must deeply hate him, a bookish type who despises tech. I think he could be an extremist opposed to high tech, furious about what the victim's company was doing. I feel this case is more like a personal grudge. My intuition completely contradicts the FBI's expert analysis. Neither side budges, so we split up to investigate. Karadec carefully questions the plane security staff, who say they were in the air for 2 hours, and Anson didn't interact with anyone, so how did the killer poison him? As for the type of poison, we're waiting on the coroner's report. Karadec eyes the security team suspiciously, but jobs are tough to come by, and Anson's death could stain their careers. Seeing no useful info comes from them, Karadec lets them go. I watched them closely a few more times. Anson's company specializes in face-swapping tech, making enemies for profit, so checking each one is tough. While thinking, I suddenly spot a strange piece of evidence, a USB found in Anson's pocket. Anson was a tech genius who patented high-capacity flash memory at 10. His company started from that. So, if he carried a USB, it'd be his own invention. Since it's not a personal item, we have the right to check it. But when I plug it into the computer, the screen instantly goes black. Then, the entire police station system crashes. This USB clearly has a wicked virus. Though we're thrown off, I find a new lead. I think if someone could slip a USB into Anson's pocket, poisoning him wouldn't be hard. We immediately check all of Anson's recent surveillance footage and quickly find the man who planted the USB. The FBI nabs the suspect in under half an hour. The guy, Simon, is a skilled white hat hacker who wanted to use the USB to pitch himself for a job at Anson's company.
So you want me to believe that you're a hacker who tried to protect Anson from other hackers?
Even so, his statement isn't enough to convince the FBI. If we know the poison, we can check recent purchase records to see if Simon's the suspect. But while transporting the body, a masked person suddenly stops the coroner's van. The driver is pulled onto the street and blindfolded. After a loud explosion, Anson's body is blown to pieces, making an independent autopsy impossible. Hearing the news, Ronnie's furious, stubbornly blaming us for botching the case. Karadek, losing his temper, vows to find a breakthrough in 24 hours or hand the case over completely.
And if we come up empty, we'll back off the case.
The reason he's so bold is his confidence in me. We head to the FBI's intelligence archive, pulling up everyone in Los Angeles capable of making poison, with files flashing before my eyes. After a night of searching and analyzing, I finally find a critical clue. A biology PhD named Kenneth Sutton had a daughter who, 3 years ago, faced online harassment from face-swapping videos and took her own life. The FBI investigated, and after his daughter's death, Sutton quit his job, stayed home, rarely contacted others, and only visited her grave every Wednesday. The issue I spot is this. Sutton never wore gloves when placing flowers before, but 2 days before Anson's murder, he did.
I think he was wearing gloves to protect himself from the poison that he hid in the flowers. Poison he put there so somebody else could come and pick it up and kill Anson with it.
I don't know how, but I think you did it.
Karadek quickly finds Sutton in an apartment. But seeing the police, Sutton instantly realizes things are bad and turns to run toward the stairs. Sutton's leg is already impaired, and in a panic he tries to climb over the railing. The only suspect dies just like that. Ronnie rushes over, furious, but Karadek takes the blame and apologizes for his mistake. Ronnie's suddenly thrown off. Karadek wasn't like this before. Could I have rubbed off on him? But both sides share the same goal of solving the case, and after this incident, the FBI and police share investigation progress. Quickly, from the cameras, we find the person who took the bouquet, but the suspect's face is covered, making it hard to identify them by build alone. I follow Karadek to Sutton's house to search for clues. His lifestyle is clearly butterfly-like, looking messy but with everything within easy reach.
Everyone's got a different organizing style. Like ladybugs prefer to have lots of storage to hide their mess. Now, bees build their hives very structured and efficient, so the bee organizing style is much more methodical. Whereas crickets like to have things very neat and orderly, with just a couple of sentimental items front and center. Butterflies like to have everything out in the open, so there's quick and easy access to everything. Much like Kenneth does.
So I realize everything here is arranged with purpose. There's no television, no computer, not even a single piece of tech. Bringing the clues to the FBI for discussion, as a photo of a book flashes on the screen, I suddenly get a hunch and catch a key lead to the killer. On Sutton's shelf, there are a few books by Louisa, an author who's not special but has a famous quote.
2 flints to make a fire.
Yeah, I think those books belong to Kenneth's daughter.
Parker had a flint hanging on his keychain, most likely a gift from Julie.
This book is prominently placed on Sutton's shelf, and as a butterfly-style person, he wouldn't keep an unread book nearby. The only explanation is those books belong to his daughter. I instantly recall that in Anson's security team, one guy had a flint keychain, clearly a romantic gift from Sutton's daughter. In other words, to avenge his daughter, Sutton teamed up with his would-be son-in-law to take down Anson, the face-swapping tech inventor. I remember seeing a dog leash in the apartment, but Sutton clearly didn't own a dog. I think he must have hidden the poison in the leash, then had his son-in-law swap it with Anson's dog's leash. While Anson was close with the dog, he surely inhaled a lethal dose of poison. The police act fast, preparing to bring the security guy in for questioning. Unexpectedly, the suspect realizes things are bad and sneaks on to Anson's private jet to flee. This is where Simon shines. Didn't he brag about his elite hacking skills? Hacking a plane's control panel should be no problem. Simon knows this is his moment to prove himself, and thanks to his efforts, the plane's system is successfully breached and the suspect is caught. He'll face the law's punishment. When the case wraps up, Karadek gets an offer from his old partner, hoping he'll join the FBI to work together. Though the FBI's terms are tempting, Karadek declines. Because now, he's got a better partner, me!
What did you just say?
You heard me. Plus you saw the FBI, Morgan. The gadgets, the tech, the bells, the whistles. It would make our job way too easy, wouldn't it?
All right, well, then I guess I'll see you tomorrow, partner.
I'll be here.
This time, the culprit is a game challenge enthusiast who even sent a riddle via email to the Los Angeles Police Department. We have just 2 hours to solve the case, or the kidnapped victim won't be safe. Identifying the victim isn't hard. They find a black box outside the victim's apartment door. Inside is a puzzle set with no blueprint. Clearly, this is the first challenge the culprit set for cracking the case. But for me, this is just dessert before the main course. In just 3 minutes, I assemble the puzzle into a map of Los Angeles, but a piece is missing in the center. I realize this missing piece must point to a critical clue. Kardec and I rush to the scene and find another puzzle hanging on a tree covered with playing cards. A nearby tree has a card with rules stating we must match colors and numbers. Though it's just a simple kids' game, we still don't know which path to choose by the end. Sadly, only 34 minutes remain. Surprisingly, after solving it, we face yet another puzzle. This time, it's a hopscotch game. But in reality, it hides complex math.
It's addition and multiplication. It's either hopscotch for hikers or hopscotch for second-grade algebra teachers. It's azimuth and elevation.
Telling us where to go?
No, telling us where to look.
The game's answer is the horizontal and vertical angles for a telescope. After I adjust it, I spot a large billboard at the valley's base. Since the warehouse has no windows, it matches the light source in the photo. So, we quickly send people to the scene. Thanks to the renter's name, we find the kidnapped victim at the last second and save him in time. But at the hospital, the victim says he knows nothing about the kidnapper who wore a mask, stayed silent, and only forced him to play a game. Terrified, he couldn't play, got knocked out, and was locked in the storage unit he rented. To honor his late partner, he always kept this storage unit. Now, useful clues are scarce, and the culprit set all these childlike puzzles. Could they just be toying with us? Without clues, we don't know where to start. Surprisingly, a new lead comes fast. Someone at the hotel hosting the police's annual gala. They place 3 dolls outside the banquet room door with a note, but no one knows who sent them. No DNA or fingerprints are found on it. Clearly, this is another clue the culprit deliberately provided. But how does it relate to the kidnapped victim? At this point, Lev mentions that after his father passed away, he joined a support group. The kidnapped victim was also a member of that group. So, everyone in the group knew about each other's storage units. This means the kidnapper is very likely a member of the support group. After some investigation, everyone in the group has an alibi, except 2 who didn't show up. One of them, David, loves playing games. He always complained that after his sister's death, the good days were gone. The other, a translator named Sierra, never missed a meeting but didn't show up today. After sketching a profile, we quickly identify the suspect as David, the bearded guy. The missing woman is also identified. But when Kardec and I arrive at Sierra's place, I notice clear signs of a struggle. I realize no one puts a bookshelf in front of a wardrobe. This shows the bookshelf was moved. When I turn off the light, a riddle appears on the wall.
You can't tell in the dark.
What's something that you can't see in the dark that you can in the light?
Other than everything?
It turns out these words have multiple meanings, and the missing woman is an interpreter.
Sierra's an ASL interpreter. Maybe that's why he chose her. You can't tell in the dark means you can't talk in the dark, right? You know who can't talk in the dark?
People who are deaf, because you have to be able to see sign language in order to use it.
The dolls. You see their hands? They're all telling us something in sign language.
Each hand gesture of the dolls represents a letter. I quickly try combinations in my head and finally crack the correct answer.
Pico X1.
That's the name of a closed art gallery. When we get to the scene, I find the woman locked in a safe, with a clock nearby showing she's been trapped for 36 minutes. If we don't open it in time, the lack of oxygen could kill her any moment. Right then, I notice a painting on the wall hints at a game. This game has different names around the world.
Game has different names all over the world. The oldest one here being knuckle bones in Central Asia. They used goat and sheep bones as the game pieces, 10 total. Next in South Asia, it's called Unjul Kal, meaning 5 stones. And finally in Japan, they use bags filled with beans, specifically 7 bags of beans.
I quickly guess the safe's code from the painting and successfully save the woman inside. But the case is far from over. That night at the police gala, Lev starts his car, only to be knocked out by the airbag deploying. A masked figure appears. This time, the culprit kidnaps a cop, raising the rescue difficulty with a swimming pool. When Daphne rushes to the car, she finds only a note in the glove box. Opening it, it's a typed word, Marco. Everyone hurries back to the station to solve the riddle. Daphne notices each clue has a different font, and arranging the first letters of the name spells out an architect.
Roca, yes!
Though he designed many houses in Los Angeles, only one has a pool. We rush to the scene, and Kardec dives into the pool. Lev, despite having an oxygen tank, has very little air left. His body is tied to a heavy rock in chains at the pool's bottom, but Kardec, with all his strength, pulls him up at the last second. Luckily, CPR saves him. Through investigation, this mansion was rented 2 weeks ago by David's parents. When David was 10, his twin sister passed away. Now 38, he has no job records or social media, making it tough to find his photo. Though the case hasn't progressed much, while buying dinner, I get news about my first husband. The informant, Gio, is at a restaurant and says Roman met with him before vanishing. He only knows my husband was involved with a woman named Lila Flynn and left a phone number saying they'd meet at a hotel at 9 a.m. the next day. I share this with the chief and Karadek. Surprisingly, Karadek gets info through Ronnie. It turns out Lila was an undercover FBI agent killed 15 years ago. My husband Roman was a key witness in her final case. After Lila's death, Roman vanished too. Ronnie digs deeper but finds nothing valuable. The next day, Karadek goes to meet Gio. I take a rare day off to care for my 3 kids. Suddenly, my son drops some fruit, but a passerby picks it up for him. Back home, my son finds a puzzle box in the shopping bag. I'm instantly confused. I don't remember buying it. Seeing a smiley face on the back, I feel uneasy, like this whole series of puzzles is targeting me. Behind the smiley face, David's sinister face is clearly hidden. At the same time, the police find a photo of the suspect David from 2 years ago, but now he's cut his long hair and shaved his signature beard. This so-called David, isn't he the man I bumped into at the supermarket?
Hello?
Morgan, I know where he is.
What are you talking about?
Roman, he's alive.